wakeupuk.net. And coming up in just a few minutes, Revolution Radio, revolution.radio. Just a few minutes, folks, for the Daily Chaos. And yeah, we are streaming. Good. Do us a favor, people. Let us know that you can hear the audio and that you can hear Boosey, Chris Boosey. Bless you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Good.
Good. Yeah, just trying to make sure that everything's going on right with Daily Chaos on YouTube.
God bless you, mate. Thank you. I'll pull up some music, and we will get the show on the road in just a few minutes' time, people. We've got Craig Workman just popping in as well. He's going to be telling us what's going on in Australia and in New Zealand. Being over in that neck of the woods. And Craig, can you hear me? Not yet, but he will. He needs to unmute. You need to unmute, Craig. Coming up in a few minutes' time, people, with Craig and with Chris Boosey. So our Australian and US stringers in here to tell us what's going on in those localities. And hey, Alan Elder Brown, you should call in and tell us why UKIP is not controlled opposition. I would love to have that conversation with you. Mookie Pook, John Middleton and Susan McCallum. God bless you. Thanks for popping in. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, people, if you want to fast forward, if you're watching an archive version, just after the commercial break at Revolution Radio, we'll be kicking off. I'll sort out some music. Yeah, can you believe what's going on in this world? It's completely nuts, huh? Completely nuts. Or is it planned and orchestrated? What's going on in Afghanistan? That is the big question today. Be very interested to hear what your theories are, people. So please, let us know.
I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air like a blazing flare. Just stare cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me.
Coming up in just a few minutes, people. 2-3 minutes time, just after the ads at the top of the hour. Revolution.radio. Going out on wakeupuk.net and at youtube.com/Daily Chaos. Subject to YouTube, who apparently didn't pull my video last week, where I completely slated them for having pulled the video the week before. Awfully kind of you, YouTube, to, not censor last week. That was David Vance on the show. Awesome. Have a listen to that, people. And Daniel Bullen as well. Superb. Really, really good guests, both of them.
When you laugh at me, hope for us because I believe the home was just you and me. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me.
Add in some entertainment stories,
okay, cool. We are on at Revolution Radio. This is their ads in the background.
Saturday morning streaming media, political talk shows going today. It's all right here on our Revolution Radio at freedomshow.com. So join me, the family, inside the Eye Line every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Did not know. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I give you.
Right. About 1 minute, people.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one child?
Just a very quick note, people. As you know, the show is once a week at the moment. The chaos is daily, but the show is once a week. So look, please help me to make it a week daily show by bunging me a coffee. Yeah, buymeacoffee.com/daily chaos. God bless you. Thank you very much to the folks that helped me out last week. Very much appreciate it. Pauline, Moira, Leah and Andrew, God bless you. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up in just a sec, folks.
We're unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away. All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Oh, blimey, that's me. Right, hey. Oh, hello. Yeah, right. Hey, folks. Welcome to the Daily Chaos. The show ain't daily, but the chaos is. Yeah, I'm Ollie Connolly. Thanks for turning up. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, around the world. Today, Kamala, actually. We're going to have the royal cami knickers in the UK and Kamala in the States. Oh my God. Yeah, Kamala. What's going on? What's really going on in Afghanistan? Is this crisis really accidental or contrived? What does this have to do with Coudenhove-Kalergi? With the UN Migration Compact? And with the global's nurtured chaos of crime-ridden migration? Crime gang migration? Yeah, going to be considering that lot today. Just, order ab chaos, no? Just more order out of chaos. Is the chaos contrived? That's the next 2 hours, taking your calls here on Daily Chaos. Big shout out to to revolution.radio. God bless you. If you guys haven't checked out Revolution Radio yet, please do pop over there, check out the chat room, say hi and all that. Let's get, sociable between our various different groups. Yeah, that's enough of that. And to Wake Up UK, God bless you, Wake Up UK, and vice versa. If you haven't checked out Wake Up UK, pop over there and check them out too. And Daily Chaos over on YouTube. Come and say hello to the folks over there as well. I should be streaming on dailychaos.news as well, but you know what? I haven't worked that out yet. Okay, right. So thank you very much indeed to all of you folks that have bothered to check us out today. Blimey, just lots and lots of questions, really. Bit of a roll call. Craig Workman, can you hear me, sir, in Australia?
Yes, I can.
God bless you. Thank you. Registered nurse over there in Australia, going to be telling us about what's going on right now in an increasingly dystopian society. And Boosey, Chris Boosey in California. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good. I should hope so. I've heard that you have just got into uni or something with honours.
Yes, I've just been accepted to Liberty University for a double major in criminal justice and pre-law with honours. So a bit of a heavy workload, but it means I'll be moving from California on the west coast to Virginia on the east coast.
They do practice justice in the United States, do they? I didn't see much of it off the back of election 2020.
Yeah, but think about it. You've got potential of someone like me ending up in the judiciary.
Well, yeah. a gun-wielding vicar.
Then, mightn't you?
Seriously, Chris, where is the justice in the US that we've got this guy Biden, China Joe, whose campaign was essentially him based in the basement, and the press give him a free pass and say, doesn't he look lovely in the ice cream parlour, ordering his chocolate ice cream or whatever, while he's sniffing girls' hair and whatnot. Never asked him about his association with China, his son doing business with China's top spy. No questions about any of that. And who now is going to get all the mineral rights in Afghanistan? Very possibly China. I mean, it really makes you wonder what's going on. And now you've got all the media saying, oh, this guy, what a moron, Joe Biden. I mean, didn't you realise he couldn't even fill a parking lot? And that's not with people, that's with cars. Whilst Trump was getting 10, 20, 25,000 people at his rallies, look it up, Joe Biden was getting a dozen when he came out of his basement. And now the media, having given him a free pass over that entire election campaign, are beginning to question whether or not this guy is a suitable leader of the Western world. Bit bloody late. Or, Chris, is this not just contrived? And now they're looking to change the guard between Biden, who was their kind of smiley-faced, useful idiot moron, and who they really want, or the likes of whom they really want in there in the White House and running this planet. Kamala, faux Marxist, China love, Paris.
Yeah. What I think is actually happening is that they had a plan, and it was a simple plan, and they thought that even Biden could have fulfilled that, carried out that plan.
What was the plan?
Well, there was a level of a plan behind, obviously, the regression of America, the ascension of China, is a major part of the plan of those behind Biden. And they thought that he could get America out without America looking too bad, and that this would be a phased thing that would happen over time. And they could then say it wasn't their fault But because everything happened so quickly, because the guy is a dumbass and incompetent, he couldn't even follow their basic plan through. And now they're going, we've got to, I think that they're going, we're going to sacrificial lamb him. They were probably thinking they would keep him going until after the 2024 elections. Because I think they know that Kamala Harris is so disliked that there is no way they could put her on a ballot paper and her win the general election. Even
they don't seem to care about that. They don't seem to care about any of that. I mean, look at what happened with the last election. You think he got 81 million votes?
No, I don't. But the thing is, it's more plausible that he won a general election than Kamala Harris.
Why? Because he's a guy who can't even construct a sentence, and who'd be better off for the entire safety of the world if he was in a nursing home, preferably not designated by Chris Cuomo. Or maybe best so.
They look at him as being this doddery old guy that is affable.
Uncle Joe,
yes.
The girl sniffer, the child sniffer.
Whereas Kamala Harris can't even get her home state to get to vote for her. You know, she was part of the reason she was even going for the presidency and the vice presidency is that California was looking like they were going to kick her out as a senator. So, you know, it's that unliked.
Really?
And if California doesn't even support
do they care? They don't care about whether or not people like these people. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton. Who in their right mind? Well, okay, there are a lot of Susans, Karens or whatever that apparently like Hillary Clinton. But the fact is that these people are not popular. Do they care about popularity? They don't seem to care about popularity. They just seem to care now about their wild journey towards this great reset. They don't seem to care what gets in the way in terms of the ordinary voter. Mandates. Who cares about a mandate, for example?
Okay. The Democrats since, even before FDR, the progressive movement in the US was Marxism in the closet. And the only person that Democrats have had that wasn't involved in that was JFK, and we all know what happened to him. And he was kind of like an anomaly. But the party's been that way. They're now trying to bring the Marxism out of the closet. And but they know that they need to have, at least for what they want to do, they have to have the people at this moment in time still to a point. They need to have their supporters behind them. And this is part of the problem that they're coming up against, is that they are hemorrhaging votes, and the big gamble that
they don't care. They just manufacture votes.
I know this is why the manufacturing has happened. The manufacturing has happened is because.
Are you suggesting they wouldn't get away with it in 2024 if they manufacture the votes, or at the midterms in 2022?
I think we're now at a point where there's enough eyes open. You know, you've got and what you've got to understand is the elections are not a federally managed system. They tried to do that and couldn't get it through. Because they're not a federally managed system, the states have control. And now people have seen what happened in.
But actually, they don't have control, do they? Because hold on, they don't have control because, for example, what happened in Michigan is that the governor took control away from the people, away from the Senate in Michigan, and made decisions that completely came up with the result in Georgia off the back of his decisions. They weren't decisions that were taken in democratic.
I know. Well, this is what I'm trying to explain to you.
Mm-hmm.
People took their eyes off the ball with regards to the elections because they thought
Trump let it happen. By the way, Trump let it happen. Why did Trump let the Michigan governor and the Pennsylvania governor as well? Why did he let these people completely override democracy and the kind of the principle of one person, one vote, and instead of that, go against the democratic process according to the constituencies in those states? And then we had this election where a whole bunch of dead people died and were voted and all the rest of it. People voting from out of state. I think they've now knocked something like 200,000 people off the voter roll in Arizona. Well, what does that tell us about the election result? Where apparently Biden won in Arizona by about 12,000 votes, and now they've taken 200,000, 10 times that off the rolls. This is just a joke, Chris. Come on. Is it not time for people? Is it not time for people to get real? And let me finish my rant. Is it not time for people to get real and understand that your vote just does not matter? In the UK, for example, you vote for Boris Johnson, for Brexit and all the rest of it. What do? You get the United Kingdom broken up with an Irish Sea border, continued exposure to the European Central Bank, border chaos, no taking back control whatsoever. In other words, voting for Boris, you might as well have voted for Jeremy Corbyn. You might as well have voted for Diane Abbott. You might as well vote for a Kamala Harris type character. And it's the same everywhere anyway. In France, the last presidential election, where the hell did this guy Macron come out from? Where did he come from with his party that nobody ever heard of? Where did he come from? Out of the woodwork. Did Le Pen win that? Because having just seen the US election, I wonder if actually Le Pen won the last French election. And next year, when she goes to the polls again, if she's not again going to be stuffed by, some imaginary puppet or whatever from plutocracy. I just wonder how we can any longer have any trust whatsoever, Chris, in, God bless you for trying to make a difference, the judiciary and politics per se.
Okay, well, part of the problem is I'm trying to explain it, and then you interject.
Sorry.
I've not even got to my point, and then I can't explain it, and then you come with about 5 different extra things that I've got to try and explain. Okay.
Well, I get excited, mate. I get excited.
The part of the problem was before. Okay, let's cover what happened in the US. Before the elections, lawsuits were filed to stop these states doing some of these things, okay? And what was the general consensus from the judges? Okay, the election hasn't happened. You can't prove there's going to be fraud from these measures. These measures are only being done because of COVID, i.e. the judges, that was what they were sick. That was their hymn sheet. And
because of COVID, yeah,
okay,
that's right.
I know, but this is what the judges were basically being fed, and the judges, who are generally of an older age and where COVID was a bigger threat to them than for the mass majority, what they basically got.
So they let emotion.
Ollie, can you let me finish even a sentence,
all right.
Please?
Sorry, I will.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's a bit difficult for me to explain what's going on because this is not simple one-word answers.
No. So basically, you've got decrepit judges, you're saying, allowed their emotions to get away in the way of the law.
They couldn't provide for them to prove that there is a judicial standard. And they would have to prove to a judicial standard that they were doing this not for the reason they were claiming, which was COVID, but in order to commit electoral fraud and to steal the election. they could not prove the conspiracy. Okay, and it's very difficult to prove conspiracy charges. You can do it, but it takes a lot. And if you've got to try and do it over multiple different states with multiple different organizations involved, it becomes difficult. So what happened was they said, and this was generally the ruling out of the courts were, look, let's see what happens with this election, and then let's revisit it. The problem then came because the judges then are in a situation where they've got to try and, well, the case has got to then they've got to try and prove almost instantaneously that this was actually a criminal enterprise of fraud. And
no, hold on a sec. What happened to proving that COVID-19 actually even exists? Nobody has isolated this virus. In Alberta, in Canada, some bloke, King, went to court with them because they told him he had to wear a mask or something. And he retorted, well, prove this thing exists. And he actually subpoenaed the chief medical, matron or whatever for Alberta, who said, well, we've got no evidence actually that this thing exists, and therefore that was it. And in Alberta, apparently now they're having to lift all the restrictions. I mean, I don't know whether that's changed or what, but my point, is all of this, what you're saying is correct, but it's all a lot of old bollocks. And the reason I say that is quite simply because these judges made their very, very partisan decisions without any evidence of COVID-19 actually existing. Oh yeah, there's some sort of a nasty virus sort of thing, some sort of a flu cousin or whatever. Yes, but what it is, how to equate it, we do not know. And what they basically did was they allowed this big unknown to steal the US election. And since the election, they've done nothing to put that right. They've done nothing to salve the concerns of millions of Americans who feel that they voted in vain, and that other people voted and they weren't even alive. Let's not go back there, because the bottom line is the US judiciary has proven that it is corrupt beyond belief, and we are now in a situation where the latest part of this plan, in my opinion, this is a plan. Afghanistan being opened up to massive refugee flood. That is the next thing that is going on. Is this not? Do you not think that this is all part of a plan which has been orchestrated, set in stone, actually for years, if not decades? But we are now seeing the Afghanistan as the latest part of this plan, to create more confusion, to drum up more migration and chaos, and to generally destabilize the world.
No, not in such a... I think they're taking advantage of the plan and abusing the plan. Because bear in mind, whose plan was the withdrawal from Afghanistan in the first place? That was Trump's. However, they've not done it in the way that Trump was doing. And a big thing about this is, do we really think the Taliban would have come straight in after Trump had done all of this with his negotiation with them and gone and done everything they've done right now already? Or do we think they might have been a little bit scared of Mr. Trump, that he might actually be a loose cannon that might actually blow them to kingdom come if they actually, if they went and tried to do this? I.e., the problem we've got is, since Trump made that decision, the Afghan military, they ceased paying them. So they're not going to go and pay. They're not going to go and defend a country that they don't really even recognize, because most of the allegiance in Afghanistan is to tribe before country. they're gonna protect their families. They're going to use their skills to protect their families rather than trying to protect this what they view as created country. You know, a manufactured country that isn't really even there is nothing that actually links them as in like a national pride or anything. Their pride is all down to their tribe. So what you've got is a situation where you've got unmotivated, unpaid soldiers who've gone, yeah, we're not doing this. And that's happened since Trump's left office, that they've stopped being paid. So the pay was the only thing that to do anything. And then you've got the fact that America's gone from having an alpha male in the White House to having an omega male in the White House, and no one in the world takes him seriously.
Look, so, I don't know. I think you're being quite kind here. First of all, Mr. Trump's involvement in this, as opposed to Mr. Biden's. Now, I'm not saying that I'm 100% trust in Trump and all the rest of it, and I'll give you 3 reasons for that. One of them is his pushing the vaccine. Full stop. Irrespective. No caveats about young people shouldn't be having to take them when their immune system's perfectly capable, all the rest of it's immoral. Nothing like that. No debate like that. Just get a vaccine. I find that incredible. Number 2, he never called out Pennsylvania governor, the Michigan governor, the various places that were messing around with election law in the states at that time. A few comments, but hardly anything. Hardly any pushback. And then guess what happened with the election? I just find it a little bit curious, that's all. The third reason, I can't remember what the third reason was now. I think it's basically those 2 reasons, yeah. So far as that's not to say that I don't have hope in Mr. Trump. I do, because, you've got to have hope in something, otherwise you really are screwed in this world. With regards his involvement in Afghanistan, though, I don't think it's fair, as has been the case with, for example, the British government, to put this disaster on the shoulders of Donald Trump, when Donald Trump isn't in office to orchestrate the pullout. He did say that we need to get out all the rest of it, but he didn't enact the procedure. That's this current incumbent or POTUS or coup.
There was a big difference, a really big difference between the 2 plans.
What is the big difference? What is the big difference?
The big difference between the plans, really, really big difference.
Mm-hmm. And that was
noticeable to everyone.
Which was?
The last facility that was going to be emptied in Afghanistan by the US was going to be Bagram Air Base. Okay.
What's that got to do with anything? Sorry, excuse my ignorance.
Well, look, they closed the air base, and then they moved all the evacuation thing to Kabul airport, which is in the middle of the city with very poor security. And then the military's tried to secure a civilian airfield for the extraction of people, and it's getting overrun. There's no control over the situation. Bagram Airfield is 25 minutes by helicopter, out in the desert, out from Kabul, no residential centres whatsoever. We had it completely locked down. So we could have done extraction. The extractions could have happened of people, and in addition,
I'll tell you something else.
In addition, we usually blow up, both us and the US. If we can't bring back kit, we usually blow it to Kingdom Come.
What the hell happened there? This was planned. It was a planned disaster. There is no way. I am reminded of something that Michael Meacher, MP, now late, possibly because of what he said off the back of 9/11, I don't know. He said it is inconceivable that the United States, the biggest superpower known to mankind, would have stood down NORAD whilst jets flew around the country bumping into buildings on 9/11. That was what Michael Meacher said. I say it is inconceivable that the United States military, the most experienced military on the face of the planet, would simply have pulled out of Afghanistan, leaving all their kit to, a bunch of complete nutters to take over and to fire those rockets at airplanes in the sky or God knows what. Inconceivable. And let me tell you something else. Let me back that up with something else. Trump, one of his parts of his plan for the evacuation in Afghanistan, he set up a special emergency center which would help for people in emergency zones around the world. So, for example, in the pullout of Afghanistan, this group would have mobilized and would have helped with logistics, medical, military, to get people out of the country or to safety in the case of an emergency. Yeah, Biden, hold on. Biden scrapped that in June. In June, he scrapped that. They didn't want to help these people, apparently. There are now said to be 10 to 15,000 Americans alone, in Afghanistan as a result of this. Effectively, one enormous, bloody great big hostage situation. Good skills, Mr. President. Okay, go, Adrian. Do you have just a sec, Chris? Ollie. Just a sec. I'll come back to you. I just wonder, Craig, if you have any thoughts on this. Let me take a few comments, and I want to hear what people have to say. Please let me know in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are. Was this just a screw up, a cock up, or was it malfeasant? And if it was malfeasant, for what reasons? For what reasons? I gave my opinion on what they were at the top of the hour, but I want to see what you have to say. David Laddie says Trump was gonna pull all civilian staff out first. Shantig's population replacement. UK is being slowly invaded. Realise it. Of course, it's planned. Mookie Pook, they cleared that airfield at the beginning of July too, which no one can understand. Something was afoot early on. Mookie also says it's nothing to do with Trump. Biden broke the Trump agreement in terms of date of execution. No contingency plans. No plan to evacuate. It was completely shambolic. David Laddie, Biden stopped their wages. And he also mentions the Coudenhove-Kalergi plan. And Coudenhove, what everything that he preached is coming true. And you've got people like Juncker, former EU president, before van der Leyen. He was a huge fan of Coudenhove-Kalergi or whatever his name was, who basically wanted to pollute the indigenous European population and confuse the hell out of it and ruin it. Kenneth Noel Curran shared with you from York and Yorkshire, England. Thanks for sharing the show, sir. Everybody share the show. God bless you, please. Good old Mother England teetering on the brink. Perverts Parliament deserving flushing down the sink. Especially petition for Declan's Law. You should call in, Kenneth, and tell us about Declan's Law. That would be useful. Dottie Bint, why Afghanistan? Well, opium, gold, silver, lithium, and other precious metals. That is an interesting, a curious little aside to this, isn't it? First of all, Adrian, let me get your take. What do you see happening in Afghanistan, Mr. Workman?
Oh, well, I can't really talk to that. I'm not kind of...
as a layman, I know that you're not a political pundit.
One thing that struck me was seeing the images of the U.S. helicopters bringing people out of the embassy in Kabul it was very reminiscent of the Vietnam War, at the end of the Vietnam War. I was reminded of that. But another thing I thought of is why have they failed again? Like, it's exactly the same situation where they failed in Vietnam.
How do you know they failed?
And
how do you know they failed?
well,
Depends what their
they didn't
objective
win the
was.
Vietnam War, did they?
It depends what the objective
the Vietnam War
was
was about
as to whether or not it
stopping
was a failure.
communism.
The official
Vietnam War was
reason
about stopping
for
communism
go on.
spreading into Southeast Asia.
Because what we have two different things, don't we? We have it's a bit like with coronavirus. It's like with everything. We have an official narrative, and then we have the hidden agenda. And if you don't believe that these kind of things exist, well, just put in a search engine, World Economic Forum, Great Reset, realize what's actually going on in this world today, and that it's not on the news. Therefore, it's a hidden agenda. It's there. They're telling us about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hidden agenda going on.
Communism.
Now, I just wonder if this whole thing in Afghanistan is not a similar thing. We saw this, if you like, charade. I would say it was a charade. What happened in the House of Commons yesterday, with the whole House standing up and saying, "Oh, terrible, what's going on in Afghanistan? Terrible, terrible, terrible." On the one hand, you, all of you, to a man, supported Joe Biden, China Joe, this presidency getting in, despite the fact that the election, to anybody that bothered remotely to pay attention, was dubious at best. Despite that, it's Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad. And of course, aside from that, they just all seem so bloody bored, don't they? I mean, none of them are talking about the Great Reset. None of them are talking about the overcycled PCR tests that have led us into the situation where the Great Reset, delivering that, is possible for the globalist elite. None of them in Parliament are discussing these kind of things that really, really, really directly affect their constituents, and yet it's terrible, the tyranny now in Afghanistan under the Taliban. The Taliban that the British government is now saying that they're prepared to support. Despite the fact that the Taliban's been slaughtering people in the streets of Kabul yesterday. I just find it absolutely incredible. And therefore, there is a difference. My point is, there is a difference between official narratives and a hidden agenda. And I think that if people still think that the official narrative is what is absolutely going on, well, you really, really, really need to think long and hard about that for the sake of your kids. We are at that situation now.
Communism spreading into Southeast Asia. They failed at that, but have they stopped it worldwide? No. I think in the last 30 years that there's been an agenda to infiltrate the West with communism, and we're seeing the results now.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Boosey.
With that, I think if ever, we're seeing the move of the Marxism, communism to infiltrate the West. And if ever we saw a test bed of a country of what they want to do to America, unfortunately, it's Australia. Because if you look at what happened in Australia, they took your firearms away from you. And now look what's happening in Australia. That's why they want to get rid of the firearms from the US so they can do the same thing to America. It's followed everywhere. The general disarmament of a populace is followed by tyranny.
But the UK has proven that you don't need a gun to fight terrorists, because you need.
You do when the government are the terrorists.
You can use a narwhal dart. You can use a fire extinguisher. You can use anything, really.
Not really.
You don't need a gun.
Not really. That's not very reliable, Craig. When the terrorists are your own government, and they are, let's be clear about this. The British government has been covering up serial child rape, for example, going on across the country, rampant, from the Pakistani community in the UK. Race hate crime against white Christian girls and Hindu girls as well, never Muslims. This has been going on all across the country. The Gordon Brown's government said for the girls, it was a lifestyle choice. This government, I put it to you, is a terrorist government. All of them. The British governments that have put up with that allow that to happen, that allow for people like Tony Blair to come out on the telly and tell us how to live when he personally is responsible for 1 to 2 million people dead in Iraq, i.e. a genocide. No, these people, they are terrorists. Or the number of hornets that they have drummed up in places like Afghanistan, who now are going to seep through the rest of Europe, doubtless, in much as has been the case with Syria, for example. I would say that they are at least cooperating with terrorists. I would say that they are terrorists. Debate, gentlemen. Your government, Craig.
I might not call them terrorists, but I would call them tyrants.
What's the difference? What's the difference? If they are putting the fear of God into people about some flu virus, which is killing hardly any people, and they are bringing economies to their knees, people are losing their jobs, people are committing suicide, the mental health crisis is off the scale, people are not able to get their cancer treatment and their heart transplants and stuff like that. People are not being able to see their elderly relatives that are dying on their own. What is that if that isn't some kind of terrorism?
I think it's just the definition where you go, it's a tyrant if it's public sector, if it's the public sector, it's a terrorist private sector, pretty much.
So pedantics, really, because the actual effect is the same. I mean, when you are seeing the kind of migration crisis unscreened, anybody can come in, and then you see the kind of violence perpetrated on the streets of the UK. People having their heads macheted off, stuff like that. And this is going on across Europe, for example. It's going on in the States. Who is responsible for that terror on the streets? Is it the individual, or is some of that responsibility shared by the British government, for example, that goes and has its own border force go and pick up these unscreened migrants? Many have no identification whatsoever. We don't know who they are. You've got Joe Biden, who's basically put a stop to the wall. And now with Afghanistan, the influx from there is going to be God knows how consuming, and the ramifications in terms of safety with that. What was Iraq if it wasn't an opportunity to drum up terrorism? Is it not about time that we called out the people that enable this terrorism themselves terrorists?
Well, I think it's going to be a slow process. Like, it's a slow process to wake people up, but once they become awake, you can't stop the flood, so to speak. I mean, in Australia this weekend, there's going to be protests in every major city of the country. I noticed just before coming on that there was a newspaper report saying that Australians are beginning to become lockdown fatigued and are beginning to defy the lockdowns. There was a newspaper called The Age, and they're saying that they've detected Australians are moving much more in comparison to the previous lockdowns. That's happening in Sydney as well. But the situation in Australia, every Monday it just ramps up. Like this week, Melbourne went into lockdown. Now we've got a curfew as well. I have to have a work permit to go to work. I have to write down my shifts. If I don't have this work permit on me, I'll get a $10,000 fine. There was a party last week held in the suburb just kind of adjacent to me, and 69 people attended, and every one of those people are going to get a fine. They were made an example of in the papers.
What are the papers
madness,
saying?
Well, they're saying, you know, they're COVIDiots. They're just making an example of them.
Yeah,
that's the problem, isn't it? It's one of our biggest problems is that we have the journalism class, obviously present company experience.
They aren't journalists. They're not journalists.
You know what I'm saying? That are in cahoots with the government. And it used to be, or maybe it was just a charade, but wasn't the whole thing, the whole aim of a journalist to try and embarrass and catch the government out when they screwed up?
Hold them to account?
Yeah. It wasn't
the idea.
They were looking to do it. It wasn't like they were like, you know, oh, well, if we see it, we'll report it. They were actively investigating to try and find stuff. And now they're going, no, the government's lovely. Do as you're told. 1984. You must speak the way we tell you to speak.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just sat here generally wondering what to say without having a rant. I apologise for having a bit of a rant, people. It's just completely nuts where we are. We are just in such a clown world. And the biggest, we hit our head against a brick wall wondering this every bloody week. When are people going to wake up? When do people actually realise that they are being fed a pack of lies about practically everything? And if it smells of SH1T and it looks like it, it probably is. Is it? In Australia, Craig. In Australia, why are people not? I thought that the Australians were, you know, strong people, take no crap type people. What's gone wrong? How many cases are there now? I heard in New Zealand. Well, tell me how this equates with Australia as well. I heard that they shut down all the flights out of New Zealand because of one case. Because of one case, or maybe it was a death. You know what? People die.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You know, wait, it just absolute overhype or what? When are people going to stand up and say, enough of your bollocks?
Well,
Craig.
The New Zealand Prime Minister blamed Australia for that. She's always taking pot shots at Australia for some reason. It's very interesting.
She blamed Australia for what? For a single case? Or for the fact that she was in office with these outrageous decrees? Sorry, I'll shut up. Shut up, Ollie.
Yeah. Well, like, apparently you're not allowed to speak. Well, they're recommending not to speak to your neighbours in New Zealand, not to congregate with any people who live outside. Like, you have to stay within your house, the bubble of your house, not speak to your neighbours. It was kind of like reminiscent of what they said in Queensland. But like in Sydney, they're saying that there's 600 cases a day. And this has sent the government into a massive panic, for some reason. There are suburbs in Sydney that are locked down. You have to have a permit to go outside of, it's the western suburbs of Sydney. But Gladys Berejiklian and the Premier of New South Wales is being urged to go harder, but she's refusing to do that. She's saying, "Oh, we have to live with it." She's kind of getting a lot of opposition, and there's moves apparently tonight to remove her as the Premier of New South Wales because she's not going hard enough. But this Dan Andrews we've got here in Victoria, he's put us into curfew with the cases of 22. It's risen today to about 51, and they're saying that it's going to go into the hundreds, but we're under curfew. We're not allowed outside our houses at 9 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock in the morning. If we do, we get a $10,000 fine.
I'm looking at this, and okay, there's dispute over whether COVID exists. Fine. So let's actually look at what happens with viruses. Yeah. Now, if it's an engineered viruses that are designed to hit humans, okay, because of how when they mutate and when they make new variants, those variants will undoubtedly be, because we know this from looking at how viruses work when they're engineered, they will undoubtedly be vaccine resistant. So you will need a new vaccine for all of that, for every single one.
Well, they're telling us that now, aren't they?
The way you deal with them, the way you deal with those ones is through therapeutics. If it's a naturally occurring one, you have a chance with a vaccine. If it's a man-made one, you don't. You have to go with therapeutics. You have to go with treatment programs, not with vaccines, because the vaccines have such a shelf life and are generally very ineffective because they've been designed specifically to attack the human body. Whereas viruses that have changed through nature, generally, they've not been designed to attack the human body. They've mutated to attack the human body, and that way you've got more of a fighting chance. So that's the basis of virology anyway. So the entire methodology of what they're doing for this is wrong, because it came out of a freaking lab which was making bioweapons. So it didn't come from people eating pangolin bats or whatever.
You know what? I just want to say, I don't know what the truth about any of the above is. I don't know. But what I do know is that the official narrative doesn't add up. I just also want to say a big apology and a big shout out to Revolution Radio and everybody listening there. I do apologise. This is the Daily Chaos. I am Ollie Connolly. God bless you. Thanks for joining us. I'm so sorry. When I joined on Skype at the studio at about 52 minutes ago or whatever, I muted me, so that you wouldn't hear me over the ads. And guess what? Yeah, I forgot to unmute. I do apologise. So what an idiot. That's a bit like if Joe Biden was a broadcaster. There you go. Right. So you've missed the entire gist of the show, Revolution Radio. WakeUpUK.net, they got it all, and now they are all thoroughly depressed. On youtube.com/Daily Chaos, they got the gist, and they are all now thoroughly depressed, and everybody's left. Everybody's gone. Nobody's listening to the show anymore because they are all so depressed. We've got Chris Boosey here, God bless him, stateside stringer for Daily Chaos over in California. And Craig Workman, God bless him, Aussie stringer, resident health worker over in, I nearly said sex worker, Mr. Workman, over in Australia, who's been giving us an update on the draconian measures going on in Antipodean places and stuff. It's just absolutely nuts. But the main thrust of today's show, though, is Afghanistan and what is really, really, truly going on there. Because you know what? I don't buy it that this was just a cock-up. I just do not buy it. There's too many things at stake here. The massive mineral wealth, as pointed out in the comments a minute ago, a massive, massive mineral wealth in Afghanistan, for one thing. You know, the US, they seem to have turned their back on that. Seem to have turned their back on the opium industry as well, which curiously didn't do very well under the Taliban. As soon as Afghanistan gained its freedom, the opium farmers were running amok, doing so well, protected by the military to grow their crop, which was wonderful stuff, wasn't it? Just ask the kids on the streets in Glasgow. But so all of that interest, that sort of drugs interest, is gone now. The mineral wealth thing has gone. What is the game. I'm just wondering, are they just not trying to drum up as much chaos as possible? Have a perfect distraction so that something else that take people away from the top story, which is that you are living in a totalitarian world. Boosey.
I'm actually going to say that it does seem kind of funny that they changed the scheduling for the drawdown of Afghanistan with all this stuff, and what is due within a couple of days' time. Would that be the official report out of out of the audits in Maricopa?
Yeah, right. That's coming up, isn't it?
Official final report, that because it's with the Senate now for where they're reviewing it and making sure there's no inaccuracies in it and stuff like that before it's
I'd agree with you, Chris, that it would be a good distraction for that, but they're not going to cover that anyway. The mainstream media decided years ago they would never cover any forensic audit, signature audit.
I know. I'm not saying that they would. What I'd say is they're that concerned, potentially, that they have moved it, not because they think the media's going to report it, but because there's enough independent people that people are waiting on these things. Yeah. And if people are too concerned about the big spectacle, they're not going to tune. They're going to be tuning in to the mainstream media to get the latest of the disaster that's going on in Afghanistan. And they're not going to be. Their view is that they're not going to be checking out the independents who are actually going to report on the audit, and they're trying to quelch as much of the people find this information getting out there. They're just trying to limit the numbers of people that know. And I think because they know that it doesn't take many people. And
we're coming up to a break. Chris, hold that thought. We're coming up to a break, people. Thanks for tuning in. Daily Chaos here on revolution.radio, wakeupuk.net, and at youtube.com/Daily Chaos, who haven't banned last week's show, which was remarkable. Thank you very much indeed, YouTube. That show actually was looking at what a bunch of censorious gits you are. Thanks for not banning it. Very, very kind of you. Every week at this time, folks, tune in. Coming up with the second hour in about 3 or 4 minutes' time. So just time to go off and get a coffee or take a pee or whatever after the ads. All right.
That show actually was looking at what...
Right, I will try to remember to unmute Revolution Radio for the second hour. Coming up in a few minutes, people.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Management would like to take a moment to thank the listeners and hosts for all their support that has made Revolution Radio one of the biggest platforms for free speech in an ever-growing dark world of censorship. Unfortunately, this platform for free speech has never been free. We need the support of the people. It is the people like you, yes, you, that keeps the station in the front lines of the battle against tyranny and oppression. Please help support Revolution Radio so free speech will not be silenced in a world that seems to be going deaf to the real truth. With your support, we will be able to become an even bigger pillar of light in a dark world.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the planet. Revolution Radio.
What the heck is the Truth Jihad? Hey, I'm Kevin Barrett, host of Truth Jihad Radio. Federal prosecutors, Department of Homeland Security agents, and curious passersby often ask me, just what is this Truth Jihad thing anyway? Well, everybody knows what truth is, but jihad is a misunderstood term. Jihad means effort or struggle. The greater jihad is the struggle to be a better person, while the lesser jihad is the struggle to defend the community. Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, did say that the best jihad is a word of truth flung in the face of a tyrant. And that's what we do here at Truth Jihad Radio. Every Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific, right here on Revolution Radio.
I'll tell you what we need. We need journalism jihad. That is what we need. Journalism is, I agree with you, you guys, you were saying in the first half. Journalism is the root cause of all these problems. We've got Jay Carey popped in here as well. We'll bring him in. And if you want to call in, people, in the second half, ko.click/Zoom. Yeah, use Zoom. Yeah, so get Zoom if you haven't got it.
Join me every Saturday at 2 p.m.
Going out on Revolution.radio.
What does that specifically involve?
Hey, Craig, go on.
Where we discuss
journalism jihad.
A journalism jihad. What does that
our lives
involve?
And uncover the secret
number one.
Pointing the fact.
Yeah, awareness. I mean, it's an irony, isn't it?
The reality that we are supposed to believe.
Coming up in about 90 seconds, people. Part 2.
2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Look, if you can support the show, please do. As you know, it's 1 day a week at the moment. I get the last 3-4 weeks I've been asking for donations. Never used to, but I am now because I want to go 5 days a week. If I can get 50 quid a show, quid, dollars, euros, I don't really care. Just enough so that I can spend a day, because it takes nearly a day to produce one of these shows. So please, folks, buymeacoffee.com/Daily Chaos.
Freedomslips.com, the number one.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I am trying to get the show to be more useful. We need to get it shared as well. You know what? Share it. Yeah.
Revolution Radio.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Jay. How are you?
I'm okay. I've lost my account. That's why you not see me posting.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the
It's all right. Just have a chat in the background there. That's fine, Jay. Just a sec.
The opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution
No, really. You know, carry on. It's all good.
100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Right, unmuted, off mute now with Revolution Radio. God bless you. How efficient is that? Maybe there is hope that I'm not going to be following Biden down the dementia stakes quite that quickly. We had Jay Carey, the downliner. God bless him. Call in, Jay. What have you got to say about what you're seeing in this clown world these days? Are you excited? Entertained?
I don't know about excited. Probably a bit worried. I mean, look at Australia. I've been looking at Australia. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's going straight towards the old show me your papers, please. I mean, they're blocking people from supermarkets.
Well, we're already at that. We're already there.
Yeah, they're blocking people from supermarkets now. So, you know, it's looking pretty bad, but I don't understand.
So hold on a sec. What are you supposed to do if you need to eat? You go to the supermarket to get your dinner, and they're not letting you in.
Well, it's all a bit kind of strange because they're appealing to people to not use the online delivery services.
Why?
Because it means that
somebody might have to.
There'll be too many workers out wandering around.
Good God!
In the streets and
awful.
spreading COVID.
Awful. They should be shot.
I think that's what they should be doing, is telling everyone to stay home if they have to. And if it was a real pandemic, telling people to stay home and using the online systems and getting their groceries delivered if they have to. But yeah.
Adrian, let me just put this into perspective. You are, am I correct in saying a registered nurse?
Right. Yeah, I am.
And you came on the show about 3-4 weeks ago and gave us a report from there. And I asked you what sort of level of cases you'd seen. And your answer to me was
I haven't seen any COVID cases at all. There's been suspected COVID cases, and we've isolated them, but nothing.
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. So based on that evidence from one of Australia's registered nurses, the government apparently has decided that you can no longer go shopping and you can no longer deliver pizzas.
Well, as long as you've got a work permit, yeah, you can.
So what? They're discouraging? Are they discouraging it, or what? Are they? I mean, what is the deal when I want to go and buy me dinner, buy an apple, buy a packet of cigarettes, whatever I want? What happens when I get to the supermarket?
You scan in. In Victoria, we have this app called Services Victoria. We have this app. We scan a QR code. And then you can go into the supermarket. So this is the app. It's called Services Victoria. Check in. You scan it. You scan the QR code.
Yeah.
And it just records that you've been there. So if this place is a transmission zone, you get an SMS from the government saying go and get tested.
For what? I mean, but how do you know that actually anybody has had this thing? You say you haven't seen any cases you can be sure of. The thing is, how can we be sure when nobody's isolated the virus? I mean, the whole. My point, is that all of these restrictions that have been put into place, they're based on a hill of sand.
Not fit for purpose test.
It's just absolutely crazy. What is going on stateside now, Chris?
There's actually something really interesting in the because COVID apparently targets the elderly. Yeah. So
flu and colds tend to.
I know.
Respiratory illnesses.
So they've gone down this road, and they found that people aren't taking it seriously enough. So now they're saying the Delta variant attacks children. And that sounds like it's starting to sound a bit more like, oh, really? Okay, so the people who've never been affected by it are now being affected. And you're now saying it's children, and no one's going to do. People are going to obey because think about the little children. However, it's coming out that in the hospitals when they're testing the children. They're saying, get this, that the children are being hospitalized with RSV due to the fact of lockdowns and masks because they're not building a viral load that they would normally build. And as such, when they are getting RSV, it's hitting them harder and it's hospitalizing them. And then the kids that are getting COVID have been apparently, the ones that have apparently caught COVID have been put on wards and caught COVID with a diminished immune system due to being infected by RSV, and then they've caught COVID on top of it. That's what they're saying for the ones that are saying that actually COVID exists. So what we're actually hearing is that the kids that the only kids that are actually supposedly catching COVID are immune compromised due to lockdowns and masks and having caught something else that is a normal bug that kids get. But because they've not got the same level of immunity because they're not around their friends, they're not running around getting dirty in school and amongst their friends. They're getting hit by it a lot harder, and that would also bear out with why these lockdowns and masks are completely pointless, because all it does, when you understand any level of basic virology, yes, Dr. Fauci, today's Dr. Mengele, I'm talking to you. If you actually understood your science, you would know that lockdowns and masks, what they are really good at is lowering immunity. So you're going to make people
just
more
common
sick.
sense, actually. I mean, he admitted that last year, and then went all around the houses and then said get double masked, and then you need to wear, some of your wife's nylon stockings over your double mask just to make sure that it can't fall off your face. I think now he hasn't quite gone as far as duct tape, but maybe if you then stick your head with your double mask up your arse, then you've got a bit more protection probably as well. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? It's just completely mad. Is there any scientific evidence whatsoever that this Delta variant is dangerous to children?
No. And there's also no scientific evidence. The only thing that they've said about Delta is it spreads better. But actually, with it spreading better, it's not as
virulent.
What they're saying is it's not as fatal. So they're actually saying that, it spreads more, but it actually is less likely to kill you if you get it.
As a virus mutates, it gets less virulent.
As a virus mutates, it will generally mutate so that it will spread more. But it won't attack, especially with a virus that is airborne and passed through respiration. They require the respiratory viruses require their host to live for it to spread, which means that they become, for them to enable for a respiratory virus to spread, it has to make itself easier to spread, but be less fatal, because that way the virus continues. It's part of its evolution for it to survive. Ebola is not a respiratory virus, which is why it pretty much kills the person pretty much within 24, 48 hours of you catching it. The reason for it is it's spread by other stuff, by touch and stuff like that, so that it doesn't need, the virus doesn't need to be spread by a living host, where, obviously Ebola is also spread by parasites, so the parasites themselves are spreading it. It's not being spread by the host. Respiratory viruses require the host they are parasitic. They require, they're not even parasitic, they're symbiotic.
Okay, look, I don't want to engage you in Chris, I don't want you to get involved in points that really should be made by an epidemiologist or what have you. Dottie Bin asks, have any of them been isolated? And as far as I am aware, the answer to that question is no. And that's really my point, is that there are so many unknowns about this. There is so little actual factual evidence. And then we have people come on the show like Craig, who's a nurse, who says he's never actually experienced a confirmed case of coronavirus, and yet his country, you can't go to the supermarket without being, treated like something out of 1984. I mean, it's just an absolute joke. It's unbelievable.
They've not even got a test for Delta, so where are the numbers coming from?
But are they not using the same tests? Are they not using the lateral flow and the PCR?
With a 93% false positive, probably.
Yeah, that's right. Which Boris said that, what was over a year ago? He said the PCR only has a 7% efficacy. The guy that invented the thing said that it wasn't suitable as a test for coronaviruses. Boris said it only had a 7% efficacy. Then he changed his tune. Just like Fauci. Change his tune. How can you trust any of these people over anything when they constantly change the bloody goalposts? Even if they might be correct about certain things, like, yes, it's a pandemic. Yes. Oh, if they could prove that, which they can't, but if they could, then you still can't trust them because they've changed their minds over everything, which makes it's like the little boy that cried wolf. These people need to read that story.
If you want to test if you want to test for if someone's sick, you do blood work. You don't, you know.
What?
You just
Bit
do
of
blood
spit
work.
isn't enough? Is that what you're saying, Craig?
No. Well, scientifically, you do blood work, but this isn't about science, is it? It's all politics.
And the WHO changed the definition of a pandemic, didn't they? 2018 was it, to say that it was no longer about fatality, but about case numbers.
And they also included coronaviruses for the first time. They included in their official
the pandemic definition exactly.
Definition.
So they knew it was coming.
Yeah. But
what I would say is actually kind of interesting is the Chinese social credit score. Now, for them to be able to implement a social credit score and be able to force people to acquiesce and, not, cut people off from this, that, and the other, they have to use technological solutions. So, what are they having us do right now? I've had it in California. Craig's got it at the moment. Oh yeah, you've got your permits to go to work. You've got you've got to scan a QR code when you go into the supermarket to see whether you're allowed admission. This is all normalizing that kind of behavior in advance of a social credit score, where if you say bad things about the government, they cut you off and you can't access the bank, you can't access your money, you can't access groceries, you can't do anything. And not only that, they're trying to, this has been done in accordance with a digital currency. They want to move away from a tangible currency, which is
tangible.
A joke,
well, I don't know. There's tangible.
Digital currency. And why do they want a digital currency? Yeah. Because digital currencies allow you to have negative interest rates, which you cannot have with a tangible currency. So if you have a digital currency, all your money has to be in the bank, because you can't physically have, if there's nothing physical, you can't store it outside the bank. So it has to be in the bank. So that means that every day you're going to be going to the bank and you'll find that the government set a negative interest rate, and you'll be looking your bank balance going down and down and down and down, and there'll be nothing you can do about it because you can't take money out.
Okay.
It's not just that. Look, in China, they've got an expiry date on the CBDC they're pushing out at the moment. They gave 50,000 yen, I think, to people who test it, and they put an expiry date on it, and it's supposed to discourage saving and encourage spending. So you don't spend it, it's gone. It's expired, so you can't even know any savings.
Let me ask you a bit more about that social credit score, because this is the thing. Because I was asking about this last week on the show with David Vance.
Yeah, it's already going in China.
This is something exactly. The Chinese have got it, so that basically they give you as a Chinese citizen a score based on your lifestyle, based on what you eat, what you buy, what you watch, what do you consume in whatever aspect. Yeah. Now, that kind of aspect of analysis, if that doesn't sound scary enough, coming from some bloody politician and God knows who else behind them in the shadows, apparently now Boris wants to roll this out in the UK, and it's being rolled out in the States. It's another part, as Chris suggested, with the cashless society. That's another part of it. These are all aspects of this great reset. Just at what stage is the United States now? I know in the UK they're drafting legislation for this thing, which it sounds as though will go straight through, because all the Tory, all of them, they're bloody useless. They're no good at defending our rights, are they? No good at asking about the Great Reset. So it'll go straight through, just like every other draconian measure from this Boris government. In the States, what's the deal with this credit score arrangement, Chris? How close is it to?
They couldn't. This is where the pig the pig-headed American has kind of saved themselves a little bit. We never got, because we don't have a national health service, and I've got to say, thank F for that.
What's that got to do with the social score?
No. This is the thing. The reason it has is because the track and trace. You all had to, everyone in the UK, they had to get the NHS.
Well, that's only an excuse to roll it out. That doesn't mean that they can't implement
it's a way
social score
for them
system.
To roll it out. They couldn't even get. They tried to get it going. They couldn't even get the track and trace type stuff going in the US because obviously different medical and all.
Because there's no official health service, they couldn't play the guilt card on the public and all that.
Mandate it, and it made it very difficult. They couldn't even get it going in California. So what that meant is you're not getting anyone pinged for contact trace or anything like that. It wasn't happening.
Okay.
So they haven't been able to even get that first step going to then start moving down the legislation, because they have to normalize first. So the Brits have been normalized into having to have an app to go about their daily lives. The Americans haven't. So I've got so much I want to go through today. So
but I want to put that round. Jay, in the UK, how close are we to seeing a social credit score system, in your opinion?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, there's still an emergency government, so it'll be easy to get through. But
at the moment, they could do that. They might decide they don't need to. All the MPs will do what they're told to do anyway, apparently, bar about maybe a dozen of them. Useless. Craig, what about over in Australia?
It's trying to get businesses to accept it. That's going to be the problem. You know, there's more small business than there is big business in the UK.
Well, you say that, but business seems to be just doing whatever it's told, as long as it can, continue to earn a few quid and not go to the wall. Then they seem to be prepared to do what they like, whatever they're told to do. And big business, it seems to be absolutely in cahoots with government policy, which is the biggest problem we have on all, really. So, for example, airlines, they're not even bothering to look at the science, and they're just saying, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, of course, you've got to have your passport.
Yeah, but the point
your vax passport.
They want to end